session. So the next session is all about the future of wealth. As we are kind of turning a new chapter in America, there are a lot of new opportunities as a community we could start to look into. And so we really want to have a progressive conversation around some different type of markets, different type of opportunities that we just never considered before as far as investing. And so we put together a phenomenal panel. We have Zach Ellis, Steve Maislin, Maislin, got it. Michael Morris and Jason Halstead. And so what I'll do is let each panelist give a 1 to 2 minute introduction of who they are, a little into their background, and then we'll go from there. So we will start at the end with Zach.
All right then. Good morning, everyone. My name is Zach Ellis. I'm the founder and managing partner of South Loop Ventures. South Loop Ventures is a pre-seed and seed stage venture capital fund that invests in underrepresented founders, meaning Black, Latino, Native American, Vietnamese founders. We primarily invest in technology and technology-enabled service companies. So think your Ubers, your Lyfts, your Facebooks, those types of companies. And right now, AI is all the talk, all the hype, all the focus. And so I'm spending an inordinate amount of my time focusing on what's next and what's worth participating in.
My name is Michael Morris, CEO and founder of Kerico Healthcare. We're a tech healthcare firm that focuses on NEMT, which is non-emergency medical transportation. We're currently in 6 states, and we service a demographic of mostly elderly folk who've have fell through the gap of reliable transportation that Uber or Lyft can't cover. And we do that combining both the TNC model, which is a transportation network company like Uber and Lyft, and traditional NEMT mom and pop business model. And we've been doing that for the last 8 years.
Good morning, I'm Jason Halstead. I'm CEO and founder of Uome. Uome is a small business app to support small businesses here in the US and also in the UK. We do everything from payment acceptance through to cash flow management and payments and expense management as well. We've partnered with GHBC to launch our prepaid debit card, which is geared to give cash back to the businesses that use it, and also back to the chambers as well. My background is as a financial technologist. I've been that for about 20 years, focused building out a financial institute, building financial technology for investment banks and so forth. Yeah.
Good morning, I'm Steve Maislin, President and CEO of Greater Houston Community Foundation, lifelong Houstonian. And prior to doing this, I was a tax and estate planning attorney. And we are a public charitable foundation, and our focus is on growing strategic philanthropy in the greater Houston area. There are community foundations all over the United States. No one knows the exact number. Let's say it's not on. Sorry about that. This one while we look. Do you mind? Yes. Okay, can y'all hear me now? Okay, better. There we go. Okay, I'm Steve Maislin, and I'm President and CEO of Greater Houston Community Foundation. I was saying that we are a public charitable foundation, one of about 800 around the United States. We're one of the younger ones at about 30 years old. And we are basically like a shared family philanthropic office. We work with individuals and families, businesses, excuse me, and foundations here in the community, most of whom set up funds or subsidiary entities with us to house their philanthropic assets, and then they make grants out into the community, typically to other nonprofit organizations. And our role is to provide data and expertise and also to help put them together. In addition to that, we do a fair amount of work in the disaster recovery and resilience space. Some of you may have heard of the Greater Houston Disaster Alliance. We launched that 2 years ago in partnership with our friends and colleagues over at United Way of Greater Houston in order to leverage the strength of both of our organizations, but also provide clarity to donors. This is a place where you can go and support recovery and relief efforts. We partner actually with the Kinder Institute right here at Rice to get the data so that the grant making that comes out of there is data driven, looking at what areas of the city were hit the worst and what communities need the most help in that regard. And I'm delighted to be here today.
Yeah, so as you can see, we have a variety of industries represented, everything from philanthropy, healthcare, technology, venture capital. Can you each provide just one opportunity that the audience may not be looking into or have thought about as far as gaining wealth for themselves? Anyone want to tackle it?
As far as building wealth, you know, you have the term thrown around, generational wealth, all the time. I think we should focus on building your wealth first, your wealth, your riches. Okay, it's a long goal, and you hear folks talking about investing, which you should, but they're also worried about crashes and this and that. You should have a long-term view. Nothing is built in one day. Okay. It's going to take a long time, so you shouldn't worry about all the noise that's happening. You come up with your plan, and once you have your plan, you build towards that. So it's wealth is a trickle thing. You build upon it, whether it's saving or investing. Really, I'm not a big proponent of saving. You invest as you go. Whatever you have that you can put away towards investing, you invest in stocks, you invest in cryptocurrency, real estate, as we heard the other panel. And you don't worry about the noise, because the noise, it's always going to be, hey, there's going to be a crash, so you're scared of getting in. And then the people who are making money will keep making money because the markets keep going up. So you focus on your long-term plan, whether it's investing in real estate, investing in stock, building businesses. A lot of people have skills in building, and that's probably your fastest way to build wealth, is to find a problem and you find a way to solve that problem. Once you find a way to solve that problem, there are people who will pay you for solving that problem. And that's the quickest way to build wealth, but that's also the most difficult. So if you have a job, which most people do, put away a certain percentage, make that a plan, make that a bill that you pay first, and you just keep investing over time. Forget about the noise, forget about what's going on, how the market is crashing, whatnot and whatnot. And over time, you're going to look back and you're going to see everything compounding and everything growing to the point where when you've built that wealth for yourself, then you can start figuring out on your building the wealth for your children, and then you put in places, so it's steps. We keep talking about generational wealth. Let's focus on ourselves with these little things that we could do right now.
Yeah, just to build on his point, I was going to mention that I think entrepreneurship is the truest path to wealth. But I think another concept that's often lost on how to build wealth is an appetite for risk, right? Like, you have to be willing to invest either your dollars into a market, your dollars into real estate, your dollars into a business, or step away from your cushy job at whatever company to go take a risk and a bet on yourself. And without risk, there is no reward. The important thing is to make informed risks, informed decisions, et cetera. Don't just go invest in the latest randomest meme coin you've heard of. Get educated, make informed decisions, and there's lots of opportunity out there. In my industry, we're talking about how with the advent of AI and all that it's able to do, sooner or later we're going to have like the first $1 billion company that was built with one person and nothing but AI. So learn about new technologies, new opportunities, new markets, and build yourself up to make informed risk decisions.
Yeah, I'd like to add, if you have a 9 to 5, if you have a job, and a good way to start on your entrepreneurial journey, if that's what you're looking to do, is actually to start with what you know. And just to build on what you said about education, if you've worked in a job for 3 or 4 years, you have experience in that job. You'll know where the inefficiencies are in what you're doing. Those inefficiencies are the opportunities that you talked about. They're the opportunities to create value in a process. And if you look at I would say the advent of even like SaaS-based technology, I know we've moved into the era of AI, but if you look at SaaS-based technology, most of SaaS-based technology, and we talk about companies like QuickBooks and so forth, what they actually did is they looked at the process of performing some sort of step, whether it's accounting, whether it's accounting or even architecture, anything, And they said, how can we break this down into something that can almost be like a standard, And so once you break something down into a standard or a process, then you can say, well, actually, what are the steps? What are the things that are redundant? What are the things that are not needed in that process to simplify it? Then the next step is, well, how do I take that standard and then maybe codify it or automate it? And then once you've done that, you've created value because you've actually simplified something that somebody has to do, And you know that, and you become an SME in that space. And so from a consultative perspective and also from an additive value perspective, you can now actually go back to your employer and say, I have a solution here which is actually going to bring value to your business. And I know it because this is the process that I do every day. So there's always those opportunities, and I come from an investment banking background, and they always talk about like having a balanced portfolio, and some of the things that you mentioned are relevant in that case. But there's nothing like having that implicit understanding of something, because that in itself is of value. And then that's an opportunity where you can take that process, you can go back to your employer, and actually, you've actually got not only have you understood the problem, but you've also got an immediate buyer for your service as well. And then it's a case of, well, if I can do it here, I can just find another company that does exactly the same thing and just replicate it. And then it becomes like a rinse and repeat process. So I always say, when you're looking at your entrepreneurial journey and how to go from a 9-to-5 to the next step where you're creating additional revenue, I look at what's close to home. What do I know? How can I improve on what I know? And then how can I take those processes and apply it to the business that I have? And then you scale it like that. Yep. And so that's just a strategy that I think, and you'll get buy-in from your employer as well. And they might even join you on that journey of taking that solution to the next stage. So that's just one strategy that you can use.
Yeah, terrific. From the perspective of philanthropy in the nonprofit sector, I think I'd suggest two pathways. One is, as you go to enhance your own skill set, like further education, what have you, there are an awful lot of people in this city who are investing resources, and philanthropy is not charity. It's about impact and helping people to improve their lives and what have you. And so, for example, a very tangible example is there's a lot of scholarship money out there. And just because you get told no once, if you want to go get a master's degree, go get your MBA, what have you, you want to start upskilling yourself, there's a lot of opportunity there, and the internet offers the ability for you to do research in a way that just wasn't out there before. And so I would suggest that's one. On the other hand, for your kind of day job, so to speak, I would suggest that wealth is not only about financial resources, though that is certainly part of it. And some of the happiest people I know are social entrepreneurs who came up with a really creative idea, some of whom, by the way, walked away from fairly lucrative jobs in the for-profit sector. And they just, you can tell in 10 minutes after meeting them that they're going to build something material because they have passion and they have that ability to raise funds and get other people excited about the mission. And they create an organization where they have a livable wage, they're comfortable financially, but the real value that they're generating in terms of personal wealth is they're changing lives, by the hundreds and thousands. And so that's another pathway that is not for everybody, but certainly is a terrific one if it fits what you're looking for out of this life.
Yeah, so that's a great point. I think a lot of times we talk about entrepreneurship, but there's also opportunity to invest in others' dreams, right? Where if you are working a 9 to 5 and you have a little extra liquid income, instead of you taking on trying to pull 2 jobs at once to build a business, you could essentially look back and see what are some other opportunities to invest in someone else's dream. So can you provide one green flag you see when researching those type of opportunities, and then one red flag, where you should trigger like, hey, maybe this isn't a good business or opportunity for me to invest in?
A green flag when you're looking to, in what we call in our industry, angel investing, right? Investing in someone's business idea. Kind of to the point that was made earlier, look for someone with deep industry expertise in whatever it is that they're doing. Don't, be cautious. I'll be politically correct. Be cautious about people who are trying something for the first time, or because they heard it's going to be the future or the next wave, or there's money in it, right? Like, that's not good enough, because the number one thing you're investing in when you're investing in someone's company is the person leading that company. Are they competent? Are they resourceful? Are they gritty? Are they prudent with money? Do they know how to execute? Do they know the problem they're going after? So to the point about selling to your old employer, do they have a good network? Have they already had conversations with their former employer and the employer before that, and former colleagues who are now at 5 other employers? Most of the companies I've invested in and my peers invest in, that is exactly the situation. They're coming from one company, let's say a Chevron, to throw out a local example, but many of their former coworkers also work at Shell and Schlumberger and ConocoPhillips, and they're like, hey, I'm just going to go rinse and repeat and run this same play over and over and over again, and I've got immediate traction and validation around this business idea. So you want to look for people who know what they're talking about and have validation, have done their homework.
Yeah, to tie into what he said, green flags, the 2 things. One is a team. So when VCs or major capital comes in, they're looking at the team or the track record. So if you're, I'll give an example, if you're Elon Musk or Sam Altman, they could go and start a new venture right now and raise billions of dollars without probably a phone call. Why? Because of the track record and who they are and the team. And if you're not known, and this is your first venture, you're leaving your job, like Ellis said, you have to have that applicable track record of, if you're a Microsoft employee or a Meta employee, you wanna pivot to start your thing, and you are working on AI for Meta or Microsoft, that's applicable to your next venture. So even though you're starting something new, it's very palatable to a VC like Ellis, who will come in and say, hey, okay, this guy has this experience, we're gonna put money in it. Now if you don't, you could still start, but that's gonna be tougher. Why? Because now you have to create that track record. You either have to bootstrap, you have to show that you're able to run this company and get it done. It's still possible to raise money and invest in that, but you're probably gonna give up more chunk as far as equity, because it's higher risk to the people who are investing in you. So those are things you consider. Red flags, obviously the individuals that are running it, if they don't have any applicable experience, I'm not gonna invest in a guy who was a plumber who's now creating an AI app. It doesn't make any sense. So those are the things you look at, but the team is probably the most important thing. And once you build it out, you build a good company, especially for our, and I'll say this, for our demographic, Black, African American, build out the company, try as much as possible to build out a company, and have a good track record before you go try to raise major funds, because then you're able to keep a lot more of your equity.
I'll add one more point. I would say the one caveat or asterisk to this is when the team or the founder of the company has lived some unique, has lived the problem in a unique way, right? So maybe you were a plumber, or whatever, something unassociated with what you're doing. But if, like in your case, right, if you've lived the problem and you've spent the time doing the research and the diligence on how to solve it, then your track record just needs to be, hey, I've been successful in other things. I'm shown that I'm competent. I can do research. I'm not afraid to do hard work and roll up my sleeves. But now that I've lived this new thing, whether it's a security issue or a health issue with a family member, et cetera, like I am now completely dedicated to this, and look how much I have sort of poured myself into this. I am now as competent as someone who has worked in this industry, and now I'm building a business to solve a very specific problem. That is also attractive.
It's always one, right?
Hello. Yeah. So I'd just like to add, on to what you guys are saying. Provenance. What you're talking about really is provenance. How do you? So when you're looking at angel investing, you're usually looking at companies or startups at a very, very early stage of their development. At that stage, you don't really have many proof points. You probably don't have like a financial track record for the business. You probably don't have a list of labels or customers that you're speaking to. So how do you evaluate that business that you potentially want to invest in? Well, it does come down to the founder and the team. That's what it comes down to. So then you say, well, again, what is the track record of the founder? What is the provenance of the founder? And provenance can be made up of a number of different things. It could be, their experience in the industry. Have they lived the problem? What's their network? How can they bring people to help them solve that problem? Because especially if you're looking at investing in businesses in our community, they may not have like big financial resources, but how are they gonna figure it out? How are they gonna get to like a proof of concept? How are they gonna bootstrap or get to the next stage? If they can articulate those points to you and they seem rational, and not outlandish, and can they show a clear path from I'm here, I know I need to get to here, but I'm going to take this step and this step and this step, and it's going to move me forward. And if you can see that clear, logical thinking, then actually that's a green flag, actually. So you're looking at multiple touch points in the persona of the founding team to understand whether they have the capacity to be able to get to where they're telling you they want to get to, essentially. Yeah, and red flags is the opposite.
Lots of red flags. So many red flags. We could spend the whole time talking about red flags.
I would just add on, I'm up here just so impressed because I'm not the wealth creator. I'm the one who works with wealth creators. But I do hang around a lot of people who have been able to build wealth and great success. And a couple of comments I would have. One, most of them that I see have a mentor. And there are networks of formal mentors, including in the nonprofit sector where you can find it, but also just within your workplace. I think that's incredibly important. The other thing I would say for the nonprofit sector is it's a fabulous place not only to give back to the community, but to build your own network. Go do board service, but do it authentically, right? Do it with an organization where you care about what they're doing, but also have some self-interest. Look at the board. Are you going to build some relationships with financial folks or strategists or what have you? There's nothing wrong with giving back to the community, but also getting personal benefit out of that.
Yeah, and I think it's a great point. I wanted to kind of hit on, Steve, the next point. As we really look at who we are as a community, we really care about our communities, right? And so as a people, or even as business owners, what are things we could do, or how can we use philanthropy as a way to really invest back into our communities? I don't think a lot of times we process that connection of that direct access to be able to invest in philanthropy to better our communities ourselves.
Sure, a couple of thoughts around that. One, I would suggest that what we see in the news all the time are the people who are doing the biggest things, but a lot of the most impactful things in philanthropy are smaller and almost grassroots. So, get involved. And you can, I mean, we have donor advised funds. There are a lot of them out in the market. You can set that up at a small amount. It's like a charitable investment account that grows tax-free, and you can use that to make grants to nonprofits that you want to support. As you get off the ground and you start building a successful entrepreneurial enterprise, there's a lot of very effective planning. We work with a lot of entrepreneurs where you can keep the business going, but also unlock some of the wealth and turn around and invest that into the community across whatever your interest area is, including workforce development, which may, you know, benefit back into your own organization. And as I mentioned before, it's incredibly satisfying, but it's also just a terrific place to build relationships.
Great. And then I know I'm keeping it moving. Michael, as you really look into healthcare, right, as a sector, we are, you know, the world largest medical center is, you know, 2 blocks over. What are some opportunities in that sector that we could start to process as far as investing opportunities or business opportunities that we might not be thinking about?
So with healthcare, and the time what Ellis said, and I forgot to mention, I actually started I own an oil and gas firm, and 2017 my mom got sick with cancer, liver cancer, and that's where I kind of figured out, hey, this is a problem as far as transportation for elderly folk, and we started that company after she passed. As far as opportunities, in every crisis there's an opportunity, and with this administration, we have a lot of shakeup that's happening, whether it be through Medicaid, Medicare, and then you have the advent of technology. So always, when you think about wealth creation, and this ties into philanthropy as well, the most successful people always find a problem. The larger the problem that they're able to solve, you're going to create massive wealth. So don't even focus on the wealth. I always have my ears open in every conversation I have as to what problem is out there. Because if you listen for the problem, you're able to solve if you find a solution, that's the person that's going to pay you. So with healthcare, there's going to be a lot in transportation needs. There's going to be a lot in behavioral clinics, behavioral, mental, you know, with the advent of social media and all the hidden mental and emotional issues, especially starting from kids. There are a lot of opportunities there. So I would peel my ear in the next year to the regulatory framework that's changing. Because with those changes, there's going to be a whole bunch of opportunities to where you could plug in using either technology and you could get creative. Because once you use technology as a tool that enables us scale these businesses to a massive audience. So you have to look at it that way. So whatever the problem is, once you find that problem and you find a solution, try to use and pivot with technology to be able to make that, you know, more, to open it up to a larger audience. And once you do that, you know, and it's a good idea, that's a great opportunity that a lot of people would actually put money and you're able to build out.
And then you spoke of technology. When you really start to marry fintech, right, the finance and the technology, Jason and Zach, can you kind of speak to some opportunities, or, you know, we hear cryptocurrencies, you know, EFTs, or I don't know, I'm probably just shooting out words, but what are some things that we should be looking into when you really start to look into the fintech sector?
Yeah, and I'd just like to, I'll take that. Yeah, so there's a lot going on in the world at the moment, especially with AI. And what we've seen, I would say, over the last 25 years is that there's been what I would say an evolution of companies that are effectively monopolies in their own right. So if you look at like 1998, that was that's when Google was incorporated. Yeah, Google indexed the internet. Yeah, and they cornered the market on search. Yeah, you take 5 years later and you got Facebook. Yeah, Facebook invented really social commerce. Yeah, and social media essentially. That company was created in 2004. it's not even 30 years old. Yeah. You look at Apple, what they did with the iPhone. Yeah. And then you take a step forward and you look at what, it's only been 3 years since, OpenAI introduced ChatGPT to the world. And so what we're actually seeing is that the evolution of technology is impacting the way that individuals are actually living their lives, yeah? And the way that companies are functioning as well. And so when you marry that with what's going on in the political climate, especially in this country as well, and you see that, you look at the other day, in fact yesterday, Amazon let go 14,000 people, yeah? What are those 14,000 people going to do? Yeah, you look at the Trump administration with what it's done with Dodge, and it's let go, and disproportionately in the US government, that's affected people in our community. Yeah, what are those people going to do? They still have to pay their mortgages, they still have to pay their rent, take their kids to school and so forth. What's happening is that in that microclimate of the advent of I would say democratizing knowledge with AI, and the political changes, and actually what's going on with the corporations who are really trying to reduce their workforce and replace it with AI. What does that mean for the normal people? What does that mean for the individual? And how do we sustain and how do we create wealth in those types of climates? Well, actually, if you look at it from, I would say, like a macroeconomic level, and you look at what's going on in the US, so the US, in terms of GDP, yeah, is about 24 trillion, yeah? But actually, about 6 trillion of that is small businesses, yeah? So the GDP contribution to the US economy of small businesses is about 6 trillion. That's actually, when you look at that, that's actually bigger than the GDP of the UK. That's actually bigger than the GDP of Germany. Yeah. So what we're trying to say is that actually small businesses are the backbone of the economy. Yeah. And they're actually only going to get bigger because the corporations are pushing individuals out of those steady 9-to-5 jobs where you had, 20 years worth of being in that job. So the entrepreneurial spirit is going to be it's going to be a necessity, and it's going to be forced on the individual. And so looking for these opportunities where you can actually make a difference. And what you're actually going to see as well is not just the technological advances, but you're going to see that the small businesses are going to be solving the immediate needs of society. Yeah. Yeah, in terms of food, in terms of all of the necessity, all of the what we call real estate. That's an asset class. Yeah, but that's actually a necessity to life. You need somewhere to live, food, clothing, all of those basic needs, all of those basic human needs. How do we provide those services much quicker? And I think that's where small businesses are really going to be very impactful in that space. And they're going to do this. They're going to do the things that AI can't do, essentially. Yeah. So that's kind of my view on how you should be thinking about it, from not just what's going on in the technology, what's going on in the political climate, and actually what does that look like in the economic space as well? Yeah.
Yeah, I want to build on a couple of things you said. One, when it comes to crypto and blockchain, I'm personally a little bah humbug, so don't ask me my opinion. I do like blockchain. I feel like that's going to come when governments embrace it, because anyway, we can get into that later after the session. But some very important things that you mentioned were that, one, if you think back to the 80s, right, in the 70s, there was IBM. There was one IBM. Then you think to Microsoft. There was one Microsoft that was dominant for like 20, 30 years, right? But now, look, we've had Google, we've had Facebook, we've had NVIDIA, we've had Amazon, so on and so forth. Wealth is being created faster and more frequently than ever before. So if there was ever a time you wanted to get into the market and multiply your money, now is the time, because technology is advancing at a rate never seen before, right? So they're literally talking about this as the next sort of industrial revolution, right? First it was like farming, and then it was like the industrial revolution with factories, but like what's happening now is just unprecedented growth. The value of information is going to zero. You can basically have infinite knowledge at this point, at the touch of a fingertip. So there's like no excuse not to be aware of what's happening and to take advantage of these opportunities. So in those opportunities, in these trends, there's opportunity to make massive wealth. And then lastly, on this entrepreneurial point, the ability to build businesses even digital businesses is accelerating rapidly. Like you can build an entire AI native business in minutes with some of the new technologies that are out there. Platforms like Lovable, that's just like the most recent sort of darling of the industry. You can just say, hey, I want to build a website that does this, 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 this. And boom, you've got it. And you're selling and transacting and making money. Like it's wild what we're seeing.
Yeah. So I know we're kind of running short on time. Do you want to open it up for 2 questions from the audience? We'll bring the mic.
Good morning. Thank you all for your time. So I'm Khalil Vinson, founder and CEO of TechFest Live, we're a nonprofit ed tech organization. First question is, what's the best place to look if I'm looking to strengthen my board? Where should I go to? And then for you, Steve, do you all have any like advisory hours to talk about, just nonprofit and how do we continue to grow, continue to make impact in this city?
Khalil, yeah, good question. When choosing your board, the first thing you have to do is have a vision of where your company you want your company to be. Like, what kind of company do you want to be? And usually, the board is basically an advisory. They're going to give you, pointers on where to go, what to do. And so these are people you want who have actually been through some sort of experience of what, you're trying to model or trying to do. So if you're a tech company, for example, you want people who have that opportunity that have already served through that. And usually the best people to go ask are people who have either been CEOs or have had those leadership roles, and they're just stepping down from their leadership roles. Either they're retiring, and they usually want something to do to just stay sharp. These are great people to go ask, hey, can you be on my board? This is what I'm doing. It's clearly tied into what you did. I've watched your story, blah, blah, blah. And, you have that strategic vision of where you want to go, and then you have to strategically pick each person that has a strength that the other person doesn't have. So now you have a round table of great advisors that will lead you through the downs, because there will be downs. And, when you get through those downs, you get to huddle with your board, and they get to give you advice and help you jump through those pitfalls. So I think that's what I would do if I was in your position.
Next question. Oh, yes, Steve.
The second part of the question that you had, we don't have anything formal like that yet. That's probably something that's coming in the future. That said, if you want to reach out and kind of give me some detail on the sort of thing you're looking for, we might be able to figure out where the connections would be, where someone might be willing to step in and have some conversation. So maybe more informal, but if we find the right person, probably still valuable and open to that.
And United Way has a program, I think it's called Blueprint, where Project Blueprint, and they train people on how to join boards, and I think they do like a fair where organizations could come out and find board members, so definitely connect with them. Ma'am, you had a question?
My name is Tamika White. I'm the president of Inertia Justice Enterprises, a 100% Black-owned business coaching firm. And we provide just root cause analysis for small businesses to thrive. And so we talked, I guess you spoke about finding a problem to solve. Some of the root causes that I'm finding with a lot of the entrepreneurs that I work with is that they want to solve the problems, but the people that they're solving the problems for don't have the resources to pay for the problem to be solved. And so they go to be a nonprofit when they're setting up their business structure, and they find out going nonprofit is a really tough way to start business. So if there's anything you guys could, I guess, provide as far as that kind of thing, do we stop, finding solutions for people that can't afford it? Or is there some way that you guys can answer how to get that ball rolling to solve those problems? Like you said, there's a lot of people going to be unemployed.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, a lot of folks who start businesses aren't truly solving problems. Like, so when he said start with a problem, that is so important. A lot of people have solutions looking for problems, as opposed to I found a problem, I understand this problem, I'm going to address this problem. Because part of understanding the problem is understanding what can be paid, what can be afforded to solve that problem. And so rather than trying to, get rich off that first customer, and I'm not saying that these folks are, but like you've got to understand, like I'm solving a problem for a very specific customer who has a very specific profile, and they probably all can afford something similar. And therefore, how do I tailor my services or my solution to what they can afford so that the price meets what can be paid?
Can I say something real quick? A lot of times, this is a big mistake entrepreneurs make. You have to find your client. Who's your actual client? And sometimes it's not the end user. So for example, with the transportation company, I knew that 90% of the people who use transportation are Medicaid clients, and they're under the poverty line. So I also knew, and they call this first principle. You take a problem, you break it down to first principle. I also knew that every one of the procedures that they have are super expensive. And who are they paying? It's the facilities. So I also knew that my actual client was not the patients, it's the facilities. I also knew that 50% of appointments in the United States is canceled because of access to transportation. So we changed the entire model, and we made the facilities, the insurance companies, the clinics, the hospitals, our actual client. And so we went to them and said, hey, you want to raise your revenue up by 50 or 48%? We have less than a 2% no-show appointment. Your no-show appointment is over 50%. Pay me $200 per ride, and I'll make sure your patient gets to you, and now you've increased your revenue by 48%, just like that. So a lot of times you have to drill down to who your actual client is. It's not as apparent as it may seem. So once you do that, it's gonna be so easy for you to now pitch to who your actual client is, because now you're solving a problem. And once you solve a problem, and they're like, oh, we could increase our revenue, great, let's go. Now you don't have to do much, put too much effort into it.
Right, because Facebook and Instagram, they don't make money off us. It's free to us.
Exactly.
But somebody's paying the money, right?
Exactly.
If it's free, you're the product.
Yeah. I like that.
And I just want to add on to that, actually, because a lot of, and this is one of the reasons why I started Uome, a lot of businesses in our community, we're great at starting businesses, but not great at scaling businesses. Right. And one of the interesting thing about scaling businesses is actually you need capital, And so a lot of the problem really is access to capital, And so then when you go to the lenders, and they're banks, right? And banks, the purpose or the function of banks in society is to provide capital. That's the only things in a society that makes money is actually businesses. And so banks have a real purpose in society to actually fund businesses. Now going back to your point about in 2023 we were looking at solving this problem for direct to consumer, for SMBs. And MasterCard came to us and said, actually, The real problem is that the banks can't lend because they don't understand small businesses. So going back to your point, one part of our business is actually providing services to small businesses, but the other part is actually providing infrastructure to banks. Yeah? And that part is all about giving them visibility on what small businesses are doing, from their cash flow, from their acceptance to their cash flow to their payment out, connecting all of the dots so that actually those financial institutions that have the mandate to lend have all of the information that they need to make those informed decisions. So again, going back to your point, actually, when I got connected to MasterCard and we started working on building this infrastructure for like 2 years, the building of this infrastructure was, as much as it was to solve the problem for SMBs, the client who we were selling to is banks, is credit unions, because those are the ones that provide capital to small businesses. So that's 100% true. And when you're talking about, and sometimes we get it kind of twisted in our thinking, when we think, oh, we don't have capital, but what we have as a community is what's called social capital, and actually brands and corporations want to buy into that social capital, because that's how they sell products, and so how do we create business models, that allow us to monetize our social capital, and then flip it around so that we can get revenue from that social capital to then turn in and to then push into our community. So this is where we need to start thinking creatively about, well, actually, there are services being sold into our community. How can we act collectively in order to create revenue streams and divert cash to where we think we can use it effectively, essentially. So that's another way of looking at those problems. When you look at and it almost goes back to the question that we said, how do you sort of value a team? It's not, can they raise money? That's only one part of it. The other part is how resourceful they are. How can they look at a problem in a multi-dimension, multifaceted way, so that they can create opportunities to bring value, essentially.
So I just want to say thank you to our panel. Can we give them a round of applause? I hope we all were able to take away some thought processes of new opportunities we've never really thought about before, some ways we can really invest in the community, invest in different businesses, and invest in ourselves. So we will be moving to our keynote. We'll take a 10-minute break just so we can reset the stage, but we'll get started right around 11:15. Thank you again.